Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911 Sustainability in Your Ear. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, and we have been talking on the site a lot about plant-based meat alternatives, and we have an opportunity to talk with Danny O'Malley, who's the founder of Before the Butcher. You can find that at btbfoods.com. They are the maker of UNCUT branded vegan, gluten, and GMO-free soy-based meat alternatives for beef, chicken, and pork. And they come in a variety of forms. You've got patties and chunks that you can use in recipes, tips and ground versions, as well as some shredded pork alternatives that are really interesting. So, Danny, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hey, Mitch, I'm doing real good. Thanks for the intro. Actually, you did that as well, or maybe even better than I could have done.
Well, hey, I've been doing the thing with the radio for a while. Thanks. So, look, first off, this is an industry that is really taking off, but it's also already relatively crowded. We have a lot of standout brands that have been heavily marketed. Why was it a good idea for you to start Before the Butcher? What motivated you?
Well, I have, everybody's got a motivation. There's no question about it. I had the advantage of being in the industry, I think before the industry became an industry, if that makes sense. I started working for the leader and innovator in the industry and now my competitor, Beyond Meat, about 7 years ago, and had the advantage of seeing what was coming before it got here, if that makes sense to you. So we were, 7+ years ago, we were in an industry that most people didn't really understand, meaning that we were making products that most people thought were for vegans and vegetarians, but conversely, were really being made for meat eaters.
Right.
We were producing products that had the bite, chew, texture, and flavor and look of animal-based proteins. We were mimicking animal-based proteins as we do today. Now, back then, we weren't as good at doing it as we are today. So most of my time was actually spent educating people and getting them to understand what this was all about. Today, we don't have to do that anymore. So because most people understand what we're trying to accomplish, and either they're in or they're out, or they're wiggling their way in, or trying to figure out what it's all about and interested in it. So several years ago, while I was still working at Beyond, I realized that the market was getting ready to explode, and that the opportunities were even bigger than what I perceived they would be or were when I started working for them. And I thought, well, look, one or two companies aren't going to be able to handle this, and there's going to be a great need for even greater variety in the products. And I was excited about it. And I thought I could go out there and do it. Just like any entrepreneur, you always think you can do it bigger and better than anybody else in the industry. And I thought there was a significant opening and opportunity. And so I branched off to start Before the Butcher. And that's about 3.5 years ago. That was September of 2017. And we looked at, with my team, and I was very fortunate to put together just an incredible team of scientists and R&D developers and other people on the team to help us get started. But we were really ahead of the curve even 3.5 years ago. Now the market, as you said today, is really become a bit crowded and even saturated in some very significant ways. But back then, there was really just Beyond Meat and Impossible. Those were the two leaders, and those were the two companies everybody was looking at that time. And we knew that we could do some things that were different, and we did. We came out with products that were different than what were on the market at the time, and we offered a variety that nobody else had. And we continue to do that today. And we looked at producing products that we thought were of greater nutritional value than what were currently on the market, and we continue to do that, and look at ways to reduce our environmental impact. And we do that today every single day, and we'll talk more about that as we go on in the conversation, what we're doing as a company to reduce our impact on this precious earth that we have. But I think the important thing is that I was able to get our foot in the door a little bit faster and earlier than many of the companies that are stepping in to the marketplace, as we see, and that helped us get a leg up, as they say. And we have a pretty good following. People know who we are, from the supplier end to the end user. And we are not Beyond Meat or Impossible, who have tremendous marketing and PR campaigns. More and more grassroots, and we will remain that way because we plan to be a profitable company.
Well, your meats strike me as more like ingredients rather than finished products in a number of cases, which is what stood out for us. And so do you see this competition as being a quality issue, a price issue, an environmental benefits race? I mean, for instance, in energy, renewables have to reach price parity with coal and fossil fuel generated power before they became truly competitive. Is price or something like that the only hurdle you have to get over?
I wish. Mitch, it certainly is a tremendous hurdle for us to reach price parity with the products we're trying to imitate or mimic in animal-based proteins. That's a bit of a challenge in various different reasons. A lot of people will look and say, "Hey, you're making these products out of vegetables. Why are they so expensive?" Well, the process to get to an end user product, something that is acceptable by the consumer as as a product that would do very well imitating a meat product, is not so easy. And there's a lot that goes into it to get us there. So there's costs involved in that, obviously, inclusive of R&D and production. So getting the price parity is something we truly believe we'll get to in the next several years, and we feel comfortable about saying that. As a matter of fact, we've just recently reduced, or not reduced, but we've recently introduced a new product to the market, a new brand called Mainstream. And that Mainstream product, which started with a burger, is a product that is very close to price parity with meat products on the market today. And it's $10.99 for a 2-pound bag, which is, relatively speaking, around $5.50 a pound, closer to what a premium meat would be.
That's a ground sirloin. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And nobody's done it. We're the first, and we're proud of it. And we know that others will be pushing to get to the market in a relative fashion similar to that. But most of the plant-based burgers on the market today are closer to $12 a pound or more. So we're less than half of that with our new Mainstream burger, and we're really excited about that introduction. Just a little plug there. But I think in addition to the pricing parity, the other challenge for the industry is getting a product that really mimics animal-based proteins in such a way that there isn't a question as to whether or not it's an acceptable product for a meat eater to eat, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I think there's the mom, what is this problem that you have to overcome. And if it feels and eats naturally, there's not, that question goes away.
Right. Well, Mitch, and then stepping back a little bit, when you said, hey, when you looked at our wide variety of products that we produce today, you said, it looks like your products are really ingredient based. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because most people enjoy what we call comfort foods, right? There's something that's familiar to you. So maybe it's spaghetti. Maybe it is a hamburger, or maybe it is, kung pao chicken or something of that sort. And that's your favorite, right? So that's your comfort food. And many of those comfort foods are recipes that look for animal-based proteins as a base ingredient, right? So we did the same thing. Our products it can be used as quick and easy substitutes for an animal-based protein in most comfort food recipes. And that's why it's so cool that, what we do today, people can eat. You'd have a bolognese on pasta and say you would put our plant-based ground in there as a substitute to ground beef. I'm going to tell you what. I'd be surprised if more than 1 out of 10 even had a question at all that
Right.
that wasn't
Yeah,
found.
understood. Now, let's talk a little about the actual proteins you're using. You're using soy, and one of the questions we ask everybody about these days is where does that soy come from? Is it domestically grown or is it potentially grown in places like Brazil and Argentina where there's a lot of deforestation to support soy farming?
Yeah, we have a great awareness of it, and it's really important to us. Our soy is sourced domestically, and most of it comes from the northern states, the Dakotas. Um, and then again, as you mentioned earlier, our products are also non-GMO. So we do know in the United States that most of the soy produced is genetically modified and used for feed, not just domestically, but internationally. And there's a lot of questions behind that. I'm not here to answer all those questions, but I can tell you for us, it's important that we're sourcing non-genetically modified soy products, and we're sourcing it domestically, and we are cognizant and aware of our impact on this earth, and we're doing our best to limit that in any way we can, including where the product comes from and how far it has to go to get to us.
So some of your competitors really they tout the fact they're using genetically modified soy because they claim it provides benefits in terms of texture and performance, that it feels more like meat. Why non-GMO? I mean, specifically, did what was the benefit, or what benefits are they touting that are not really benefits?
Well, Mitch, I'm not a scientist, but I can tell you, I'm not sure that a genetically modified soybean is going to provide a better texture than a non-genetically modified soybean. I haven't seen that, and I'd love for somebody to show me how that works. I don't understand that logic, quite frankly, and it's interesting to me. So I don't think there's any question, or anybody would question the fact that, generally speaking, a genetically modified soybean would be less in cost than a non-GMO soybean. And perhaps that's where the basis is coming from. And it's also much more readily available in the US than domestically compared to a non-GMO product. So, we could probably go back and forth for a couple of hours on that, trying to understand the logic behind it. But bottom line, at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of concern by the general public in regards to genetically modified products.
Anything, yes.
Yeah, anything genetically modified. And I think it's just a lot of it has to do with education and understanding what that means when the product's being modified in that way. And I don't think we've done a very good job from the very beginning helping people understand what that means when something's GMO or non-GMO. So the public as a whole immediately will gravitate toward a non-GMO product, and rightfully so. I mean, that's the way nature meant it to be, right? And so that's where we stand.
So the other ingredient that stands out for us is canola oil, which is sometimes genetically modified. What's the benefit of using canola, and how do you make sure that you don't have GMO canola oil in the product as well?
Well, that's a really good question. For us, our products are verified by the Non-GMO Project, okay. So there's no wiggle room there. By the way, those products are intensely analyzed by a third party to make sure that they are non-GMO, and so we're very confident that everything that we offer to the consumer under our UNCUT brand is non-GMO. And all of those products are non-GMO project verified, third party verified. So I think that's really, really important. And it's important to us, and has been from the very beginning, that our products are non-GMO and they're verified.
So the other major component of looking at the sustainability of your product is the packaging. Now, we all know meat is usually packaged in plastic, and your products are plastic packaged as well. Are you looking at alternatives to that kind of plastic, bio-based plastics, or some other form of packaging that would be more recyclable?
We are. That was a thank you for the lead in, by the way, because we are within the next 60 days introducing new packaging. It will still have plastic, but reduced plastic and reduced cardboard, the outer packaging for
Mhm.
our products by about 30%. So
Okay.
we are cognizant of that. We're aware of it, and we are always looking for alternatives that will help preserve our products in such a way that when they hit the market, they'll be able to stay on the shelf long enough for the consumer to take the product off the shelf and then take it home and consume it, or for the food service operators as well. So we are just literally days out from introducing new packaging, which will continue to reduce our impact on this earth.
That's great to hear. Now let's turn a little bit more to the industry. And so your company has already been acquired by a company called Common, and they own Jensen Meat Company, which is one of the larger meat companies in the United States. Do you see the meat industry starting to pivot towards plant-based alternatives, or like in the oil industry, are they on the defensive and just trying, for the most part, to stay firmly entrenched in industrial farmed meats?
Well, I think food production as a whole, inclusive of meat production and the large national conglomerates and billion-dollar operators have already made that decision, and they're in. And I think that really started several years back with Tyson making an investment into Beyond Meat. Now, those of us in the industry know that didn't last, and they went out and did their own thing and continue to proceed forward with their own plant-based division. But my thought is this: if you're a large meat producer today and you've decided to fight this, you're on a real uphill battle. Most companies have already dove in to this and have already made a decision that they are going to be inclusive of plant-based meat products in some way or fashion. Now, that may mean starting their own division, buying a company that's already established, or just starting from the ground up. But they're all in. I'm not sure who isn't in at this point in time that's producing food products in a measurable way. And I think we're going to just see more and more buy into that. Really, if there's any battle we have today, it's really coming from the growers, basically maybe the Cattlemen's Association and some of the other baseline where it's being grown out in the fields, animal agriculture, and so on and so forth. The manufacturers of animal-based proteins have already bought into this, and they are strongly behind it, understanding that this is not what we would even. It's hard to even call it a trend anymore, Mitch. It really is a lifestyle change that we as human beings are making across the board, and the younger generations are driving it.
Yeah, what I find is younger folks are literally not eating much meat at all, and some of us older folks have
Yeah,
given up most of it already.
yeah.
The So this is going to be a really big industry, obviously, and then the current projections are it's going to be about $21 billion in 2025, and that's still, just a fraction of the entire meat market. Uh, let's talk about the environmental impacts. How much less CO2 do you think we can emit as a society if we make a 50% change to our eating, for instance? Where are we headed in terms of our environmental impact from our diet based on what you do?
Well, look, people have to, and I say people in a general sense, it involves all of us, not just a handful of us that are producing these products. We have to make a decision that we're going to eat better.
Mm-hmm.
And by better, I mean, we believe we're obviously producing products that are better for our bodies, right? But what's really important here is that we're producing products that are better for our planet. And our bodies don't perform or survive on a planet that's dying. So we as a whole have to make that decision. And the better we get as manufacturers at producing products that are acceptable to the public as a whole, to the consumer, because it's familiar to them, whether it's an animal-based protein that we've mimicked or just a plant-based protein that's just absolutely fantastic, the easier it is for the public to make that shift. Now, we talked about earlier that, and you just mentioned that the older generations and maybe the baby boomers and X Gen, or I lose track of all the generations, but
Too many of them.
yeah, we're driven mostly by health benefits, right? We go in and we see, we're 50 years old. We go in to see the doctor. The doctor says, "Hey, look, your cholesterol's a little high. You're a little bit overweight. Da 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 da. We're concerned. What do I do, doc?" And doc says, "Well, there's a couple of things you need to do. Number one, you need to be more active." Okay, we get that, right? I got to go out and go for a walk every day, or take the dog for a walk. But number two, and maybe more important, you need to eat better. And how do I do that? Well, you eat more plant-based. It's the same answer every single time. Oh, I love my hamburger. I love this. I love my chicken. Well, I get that. I'm not saying to cut it out completely today, but you need to reduce it. Well, I still want my hamburger. Every Saturday we have a cookout. Well, let's take a look. What are your options? Well, your options today are fantastic, right? We're making some absolute incredible plant-based burgers. So you can eat that. Now that is the the baby boomer generations. We're concerned about the health, and that still is the number one marker today is health. But as we work our way down to millennials and younger, they're concerned about the environment, and that's what we're talking about today is the environment, right? They are driving the movement here. And as they continue to drive the movement, that movement is reducing our emissions and, hopefully cleaning up our planet in such a way that, our not just our children, but our children's children and our children's children's children will live a better life because we have
a completely different one in a lot of ways, in a completely different one in a lot of ways. As you're talking about, our ecosystem relationship will change because you and other companies have recalibrated where the food comes from. That's a really interesting direction for us all to be thinking about, because a lot of the times we think about what we're giving up, and in fact, we're progressing into something where we enjoy a lot of the same experiences, but it comes from different sources.
We're not asking you to give it up.
Yeah.
We're asking you to look at an alternative that's just as good. And I really believe at some point in time will be even better. And we're really excited about it. And we're excited about not just what it does to help companies like ours grow, but what it helps to do for our environment and, for the health of us as a people and our planet as a whole.
So where do you see before the butcher in 2030 in terms of your packaging, the breadth of products? Or how many different kinds of meats can you create?
Well, look, the goal is always to continue to mimic animal-based proteins in such a way that the consumer believes, number one, that they're eating a product that's just as tasty and good as the animal-based protein that we produce. So it's almost limitless. So if you look at all the animal-based proteins on the market today in the different shapes and forms and ways that they're produced, from a finished meal to an ingredient, we think we have an opportunity to continue to grow. And look, the food industry always changes, right? We're always looking for unique and special and different ways of producing products that's interesting to people. And so we'll continue to do that. And I don't see an end to that. Just as somebody that produces other food products would say, hey, look, I may have started here, but we may end up there. So we're not going to find ourselves restricted per se by just producing, chicken or beef and pork alternatives. We see ourselves getting into seafood and other alternatives as well, and then maybe expanding beyond that. 2030 is a very short period of time, right? It's only 9 years away. So that's going to come up really quickly. And we're excited about where we'll be there at that point in time. And we know we're going to have tremendous variety, hopefully beyond what our competitors have on the market, just as we do today.
Do you see yourself being a net zero company at that point, or is that further out?
Oh, we're working toward that. We would love to be. Yeah, that is our goal. There is no question by that time that we anticipate being there. We're building out 30,000 square feet right now down in San Diego at our corporate facility. And we've already got solar panels up to generate all the electricity that we believe we'll need for that. We're going to install some plug-ins so I can drive my electric car up and plug in while I go to the office. And we're looking at all the different alternatives we can do to be and get to that point.
So tell us, where can people learn more, and what do you suggest they try first in the Uncut or Mainstream lines?
Well, you can go to btbfoods.com. That's boy, Tom Boy, before the butcher. So foods.com, and you can jump on that site and learn more about the products that we have available in both food service and retail. And I'll tell you what's really exciting. There's two things I would talk about right now. Number one is our new mainstream burger that's hitting the market, and we'll be launching it on an e-commerce vegan site called Shop Veggie, VEGG. I'm sorry, not GG, VEJJI.com in about a week. We're really excited about that launch. Because that's our affordable option that we think the consumer will be able to buy regularly rather than worrying about how much these products cost. And then we've also launched just recently into retail is our variety of plant-based grounds. So we have 5 different flavors. We have our traditional classic burger flavor, but we also have a breakfast sausage, an Italian sausage, chorizo, and taco. And I got to tell you, Mitch, they are incredible. And you can take any one of these and use them in an application when you're building a recipe, whether it's a burrito or a bolognese or any other ground format that you may do in a recipe. In fact, you know what's really great right now is shepherd's pie for St. Patrick's Day. And I made that up the other day, and it is fantastic. And I just don't know how you'd be able to tell the difference. So when you're going out and looking for our type of products, you can do the same thing with our burgers. You can literally cook up our burgers and break them up and make a ground out of it. Sure. So it's the simplicity behind the products that make them so accessible and readily usable for the consumer. And we love it. And I think it's fantastic. And I think the consumer loves it as well.
Well, Danny, I want to thank you for taking some time to talk with us today.
Mitch, I appreciate it.
Well, folks, that's Danny O'Malley. He's the founder and president of Before the Butcher. You can find them at btbfoods.com. One long word, BTB Foods. And check out the Uncut branded vegan, gluten, and GMO-free soy-based meats. Also, the new mainstream product, which at $5.50 a pound is quite a competitive deal to regular meat. We'll be back with another innovator interview soon. In the meantime, I'm Mitch Ratcliffe. Send us a mail. We're at Mitch Ratcliffe at Earth911.com. I'd love to hear from you about what we're doing on the show. And come back and hear the next one. In the meantime, folks, take care of yourself, take care of one another and the planet. We'll be back soon.